Hello everyone. This is Rituja Bakshi and Pratyush Giri from SJMSOM IIT Bombay, and we extend a very warm welcome to you on behalf of eClub. So today we have with us Pratyusha Vemuri, the founder and CEO of raptorX.ai, which is a company that specializes in advanced behavior biometrics and AI-based fraud prevention solution. Prior to which, she was also the product head of product identity, security, and privacy at Microsoft. So Pratyusha, over to you. How did your entrepreneurship journey start?
Yeah, hi guys. Again, thanks again for having me. Very excited to be talking to the team here. Uh, yeah, I mean, it was not a very planned journey. I think it just happened very organically. Probably I always wanted to start something by myself. Maybe it was at the back of my mind. But I went through some fraud incident myself, and that just triggered a chain of events after that. And considering I'm in the security space and the cyber fraud industry is a slight adjacent industry to security. Security is a very crowded industry, right? It's a $250 billion market with tens and thousands of players. The fraud industry was a little less crowded, and the opportunity is intense right now, right? Like, India is coming online, APAC is coming online, and frauds are going to quadruple over the next couple of years. And the numbers are pretty staggering. So I just felt like there's a huge opportunity. And yeah, I just decided to just jump right in. I didn't need anyone's approval, I guess. I just decided to just go ahead.
So, Pratyusha, I have a follow-up question on that, perhaps. So you were right there at San Francisco, right? Like the hub of all the tech in lot many senses. So why did you happen to choose, let's say, coming back to India with this particular topic, building up the entire ecosystem around security? Was that a conscious call to come back to India, or would have been in a way, a little beneficial to be, let's say, back in US? So your take on that.
So both have its pros and cons. Definitely, slightly more pros would have been in the US for sure, but also the cons are the expense, right? Like, I mean, it's gonna be very expensive. I would have to raise $10 million to even start something that I did right now, versus starting in India. Definitely, I could not have dreamt this in the US. Like the state at which my product is right now, I could build it because I'm based out of India. It could not have been possible outside India. Right. So that is one big thing. And also the opportunities that are there right now, the government giving the opportunities is a lot more in India right now than US. Right. So it's a perfect time to start a company in India. Right. The next 5 years 10 years are going to be India's time. So I just felt like, at some point, like, we all keep going to US and, building or rather helping build Google and Microsofts of the world. I feel it's high time the Indian brains, do something for India.
Yeah,
so Pratyusha, could you tell us a bit more about like the founder and CEO's perspective of raptorX.ai? What does your company exactly offer? What does it bring?
Yeah. So basically, banks and e-commerce have multiple type of frauds, right? Banks have like payment frauds and identity frauds, like account takeover, identity theft, transaction frauds. They have that. E-commerce has like, return and promo abuse, friendly frauds, and so on, all of which are costing more than $55 billion, $100 billion. These are the numbers that are getting lost to frauds, right? In each industry. So they're pretty insane. So to address that, we are doing a life cycle risk assessment of a user whenever they interact with the banking or e-commerce company. So at the moment they sign up, login, session, and transact, we are building a advanced behavior profile of the user using like the typing patterns, the speed patterns, key metrics, all of it. And then we apply our own unsupervised and supervised machine learnings to immediately identify fraudulent rings that can happen and also predict whether the user is fraudulent or not. Because just because it cannot be static or a static deviation. There has to be machine learning, because just because I'm logging in from Android and then I go to iPhone doesn't mean I'm fraudulent, right? Till date, my Chase in US sends me an alert thinking I'm fraudulent, right? Whenever it thinks I'm transacting from India. That is because they have a static rule set. So our goal is to, remove the static rule set completely and also help the admin be compliant and understand anti-money laundering much faster using, again, this co-pilot kind of thing where I don't know how much technical thing it is, like using RAGs and LLMs. They are very new age technologies which can help arrive at decisions faster and show you extremely relevant insights for the admin, right? So to build their business and also fight frauds.
Right. So, Pratyusha, could you tell us a bit about, how does it feel to be a women entrepreneur? Like, what is like in this much of a male-dominated world? It has to be something. It is exemplary. It is something out of the world, and it's something all of us dream of right now. Like, for example, even in management, even today, if we look at the scenario in India, the number of women studying MBA, the number of women aspiring for entrepreneurship is very less. And where you are is where all of us aspire to be. So, like, what would your comments be on that?
Yeah, no, I'm so glad to even hear that aspiration is there, right? Because that is very important. I honestly felt a lot of women just give up halfway, maybe because of societal pressures, or they get married, or they get to have kids. That should not be a blocker, right? In fact, that should be, in fact, for me it was even more important because I have two girls, right? I definitely don't want for them to ever grow up and work for somebody else, right? Like, if you have the brains, you grow up and hire somebody, right? Like, that should be the way to go if you have the right brains. So definitely, like you said, it is slightly lonely, right? Even if you look at the entrepreneur magazines, there'll be like 4 men standing. Again, no offense to Pratyush, right? Like, definitely that's good. But I think, more women have to be there, and they are talented, right? Unfortunately, life catches up. And after that, it just becomes like, hey, who takes a slight backseat kind of thing, and it just trails off. But I think women can do a lot more. They can be technical and they can multitask a lot as well. So we should use that to the advantage and not be just bent to societal norms. I think eventually it just comes down to that, So I really, really wish, do not stop your aspirations the moment you get married or have kids. And that is more important.
Right.
So that representation has to be there, and even more so in tech also has to be more, and in this entrepreneurship, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Pratyusha. I think that gives us a good perspective of how women in entrepreneurship, like how does that work, especially in the Indian ecosystem. But I have a question, perhaps a little close to me, because I have been somebody who had a startup like a while back, but then it dwelled into a corporate world, and since then have been trying to venture back to entrepreneurship. But always have that question in mind, that risk in mind. How do you get back? While you had a successful career, let's say, not only Microsoft but other big companies altogether, and then you dwelled back into entrepreneurship. So first of all, there are two parts of the question. First of all, how is that journey? If you have to, somebody like me, if you have to give me that motivation, what would that be? And second, does that question actually differ from when I ask let's say a man versus a woman, right? So is it a gender neutral question, so to say, switching careers from professional MNC standpoint to entrepreneurship? So these are two questions which I had.
I see. I mean, see, the first question is, what is going to motivate you, right? In fact, at the age that which you are so free, right? You have no big responsibilities, and this is a right time to not have that responsibilities and take that jump, right? Because however you come out of it, you will be so much smarter. You will be a class apart from anybody else, even if you happen to go back to corporate, right? Because the learnings that you're going to have, that drive, that passion, and what is going to go wrong, and bringing everybody on the same page, the fundraising, there's so many aspects to building a company, right? It is just unparalleled experience. So even if it doesn't succeed, you will go back a smarter person, and you don't have the responsibilities of kids and so many things right now. So you have that freedom to explore whatever you want to explore. So I would just say, just jump at it, right? Like, don't wait for too long, right? And you'll have fresher ideas too, right? Like, because in fact, to an extent, because you've not seen too much, the ideas that you have can be very novel and very groundbreaking and very fresh thinking, right? So I think that would play to your advantage too. The second question was not too clear to me. So do you mean that is it different for men and women to break from MNCs?
Yep. Because of, like, let's say, right, women in entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship in general. So does that differ from, let's say, a man to a woman?
Honestly, I don't think so. I mean, like I said, right, like women have to come out of that shell they should not think that they're playing a supporting cast to a man, right? Like, unfortunately, a lot of women think that, the man brings in some X amount of money. I'm going to bring in like 20% of the tax. That thinking should not be there, right? It should either be equal or more, right? Like, it doesn't matter. But at any point, it should not be, the thinking should not be there. So, and women seriously can do a lot more. What happens is, we end up doing a lot of the house completely is taken care, along with work. So, that is what eventually happens, but just don't be stuck there is what I would say. Of course, like, there has to be some load balancing that has to happen with the husband and wife. But that should not be a stopper, because women are very, very capable to switch contexts, multitask, be on top of things. So, I don't see a difference personally for a man or a woman. If anything, it's easier for a man a little bit, because people will end up supporting the man, like, yeah, just go for it.
Right. So, Pratyusha, so what we've heard from other entrepreneurs, other people who've opened their own companies, one common thing that we've heard is, when you have an idea for a startup, when you have an idea for a company, the only time when you should actually go ahead with opening the company is when you are ready to, lose everything for that idea. You're ready to pin everything to that idea and lose everything for it. That you are ready to go all in. So how true is that from your perspective? And if it is, then when do you know for sure that that is something you are ready to go all in for?
No, good question. So it is not just an idea, right? It has to be validated with a lot of factors, like the market opportunity. What is the growth of the market opportunity? Who are my customer personas? Have I done that research? Are they willing to pay for it? Is it a big enough problem? Who are the competitors who are there? So all that has to be done, and your founder market fit has to be there, and your ability to build a product market fit has to be there. With all that in place, you minimize the risk of it failing. Then that idea is big enough or valid enough for you to lose, to jump, like, risk everything and jump. It cannot be like, oh, I want to build a rocket and just jump at it, right? Like, it can't be that. It has to be validated with everything. And that's what I did as well, right? I spoke to multiple personas. I spoke to which industries, how big is the problem, what is the growth of the problem, who are my competitors, how can I stand out, is my background going to help or not, right? Because at the end of the day, I have to raise funds too. So there has to be a founder market fit, then there has to be a product market fit, and only then you have to jump in. So that is very important.
Right.
Yeah. So then you'll automatically have the conviction that, yes, I am the right person to build it. And this is why. And this is how big the opportunity is. And this is how much I'm going to make out of it. And this is how much I'm going to make the investors out of it. That path has to be very clear.
Right. So, Pratyusha, as an entrepreneur and as a woman, looking back at your journey, what would you say was the hardest thing to do for you was in this journey? What was the most difficult to navigate through with respect to building a company, building a team, coming up with ideas, all of that?
Yeah, I'm saying there's so many. So
if you had to pick
I'll pick a couple. So overall, I think one bigger especially because I've spent 18 years outside of India, right? I've never worked in India. So adjusting or understanding what is the motivation of most people in India, and how to retain and get work done has been very different. Right. And I just noticed the motivation cannot always be money. Right. And to a certain extent, in India, I've noticed that to be a slightly bigger factor. Right. Versus in US and places, the motivation of owning something is very important for people there. in India, at least from what at least whomever I came across, that's of course not everybody's like that, but I would say 70 to 80% of the time, if that becomes a motivating factor, right, it becomes hard to motivate beyond a certain point, because that cannot be the goal, right? So that has been very challenging, for me, because I especially, and very, or rather a little frustrating, because I'm not at all exposed to that kind of mindset in the past. So that has been very challenging for me personally. But other than that, I think those are just struggles that come with it, right? Like in general, fundraising in India is very challenging because, again, the mindset is a little different than Silicon Valley in terms of, hey, do you have all the customers in place, before we, give you the funds and stuff like that. So it's been more challenging here. If I just went back to the US, I would have just raised double this amount, very easily with my background. So that has been a little challenging too. But other than that, the other struggles are just challenges, right? Like, just the amount of documentation in India is pretty crazy. But that's just the nature of things, but that's okay.
So, Pratyush, do you have any more questions? If not, then I have one final question.
Yes, definitely. I have one question, because we spoke about fundraising, and I think the elephant in the room is Shark Tank, right? Pratyusha, how was it? Like, I don't have any question. I have the word Shark Tank. Please describe it.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting, right? Because I don't come from that kind of a background at all. And, so I just applied, because I don't have connections in India at all. And I was like, fine, let me just apply, right? So they were kind enough to at least accept the application. And they did a lot of due diligence, right? It was pretty insane, the amount of due diligence they did and how much they tested the product and the business aspect of it. And they were very, very tight-knit, very professional, very diligent. It was quite an experience with all that set and everything. So again, because my background is nowhere related to that, it was very interesting to be on the set, and they were very nice overall. And post which also they're definitely in touch with me on WhatsApp and stuff to, helping roll out a lot of things, for discussions. And that also helped me raise more funding after that. So overall, it's been a great experience. And without them, I could not have expanded into the e-commerce segment, because again, without connections, you can't go anywhere. It would have taken me so long to find the right e-commerce connections.
No, fantastic to hear. And I think one question which I have is, has the life, changed after Shark Tank, getting premiered on television and YouTube? Do you have random students pinging you to get on a Teams call and speak about entrepreneurship just like we did?
Yeah, quite a bit. Of course, your tag helped, right? Otherwise, I don't entertain, everybody, right? I just don't have the bandwidth to entertain. But I think you guys have the right pedigree and the intelligence to start something by yourself. So I felt I should take some time out, to talk to you guys. But yeah, definitely there were quite a few, like around 40,000 LinkedIn connects, and then, but also a lot of good folks that I could hire because they were so interested and believing in the vision, right? So that they were willing to leave some jobs in Google and join me. Right. So that kind of thing I could not have found on a regular LinkedIn job post. So the vision and the mission, I think, resonate with quite a few. So I found some very good candidates to hire. And like I said, there were a lot of some interview requests, like again, CNN was one, and some those I entertained. But yeah, all the other students, I don't have the bandwidth, but you guys were special. So I'm happy I could make the time.
We are fortunate to have you, and at a very short notice. Thank you so much. We wanted to really do it in person, but we understand, right? Everybody has to travel, and why not take this opportunity to have you at least in the digital form. And again, sorry, I'm taking a little longer, but I have this is my fan boy moment with Shark Tank, right? I have been watching it since long, first in US, then back in India, and it has been amazing. So if I have to ask you, like, what in your perspective will Shark Tank have an impact in an Indian ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem in general? Like, how of an impact has already been brought in last 3 years, and how do you think it has really shaped up that that entrepreneurs from every nook and corner coming in with that incremental business idea? So what is your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fantastic, right? Like, I mean, literally it came at the right inflection point where India has so many issues to solve, right? Like, so having this kind of platform where people can learn free of cost, right? It's unparalleled, because even I remember seeing a few where they never had any experience. They never ran a business before. They learned everything from what is a TAM, right? Like understanding from that level, they built a business. So I don't think that getting this kind of free advice and it just could not have been possible in any other platform. And India has a lot of problems to solve, and we should have more Indians solving for India and globally too. So these series like Shark Tank and stuff are absolutely mandatory, and they should just last. So I'm very, very happy that it is there in India, because I was again a follower in the US as well. So having the right sharks, understanding and learning from them is what we all should be doing too. So, and whoever the judges are so far, they've been fantastic. So lot for us to learn from them irrespective.
Indeed, indeed. And I think at this moment, I will give it back to Rituja, or else my questions around Shark Tank will not get over.
So one last question from my side, Pratyusha. Some words for women aspiring to be where you are right now.
Just don't take no for an answer, right? I mean, and don't try to break out from the box, right? All the norms have been defined by society. Just don't think of yourself as any lesser than anybody else, and always speak your mind, right? Like agree to disagree, right? Like, and don't feel shy to accept praises, and don't feel shy or don't feel that you are not capable of something just because someone else thinks so, right? And even if there are other people in the room who are trying to be different, put you down, just don't let that come in your way. It's just very subconscious things. I think, as you go through, you'll realize later, because this whatever I'm saying is also because I also grew, right, over time. I also had to break free from certain things that I was automatically expecting out of myself. I had to understand that, recognize that, and break away from that. So that is the advice I would give for any women.
That's amazing, Pratyusha. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much for taking out time for this. Thank you, Pratyush, for joining, and we'll stop the recording here.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you so much, Pratyusha.